Hello and welcome. Happy New Year's. This project was actually so I started it at the end of December. So literally like December 31st, I started and ended the drawing phase of it, but this is still an ongoing project because of what I do afterwards. So even though it's like a New Year's thing, I didn't want to like spoil the other part of the project, and it's sort of like a part 1 and 2. So it's coming out now. There we go. So essentially, what's going on is that I have a wall in my room and I want to change up the gallery theme of it because right now I just have a whole bunch of my random art stuff in it, and I'd like to make a more uniformed themed, and I'd like to make pieces that I could just switch in and out and it would still look good. And if it's like a yellow theme, all my yellow pieces could still work together. While if it's like a red theme, they could go together. Academia, or dark academia slash like Renaissance type things could go together, and they could like switch in and out. So even though this piece is dedicated to like a specific story that I have, I could still use it if I wanted that like Renaissance dark grim look, essentially. Very interesting piece though. So the backstory is that this crow is Nith's. I think I wanted to name it Morti. I feel like it's like a sort of like a playful, friendly name, but it also means death. So pretty much sums her up. But she eventually gets a crow as a pet, and it's like it's now a royal crow type thing, which will depict. And I think there were some like sketches somewhere in like the abundance of sketchbooks that I have depicting like a crow with a crown just for the storyline. But as I've mentioned before, I want this to be able to be used in like a whole bunch of different like themes. So yeah. On top of that, there is some changes that does happen because the goal of this was basically to translate it into a cross stitching, because I've really wanted to like make a cross stitching pattern for a very long time. I'll make a video about that like after. It might not sound interesting, but it's alright, I will say, because it's basically just making pixel art, and I'll go through the process. In case you're interested in cross stitching, I will say it's not a tutorial, but it's just like some insight and some things if you want to like see what it's about, but you might not be invested in doing it per se. With all that being said, it was very interesting playing with texture of the brush, trying to mimic a natural photo and stylize it as well. It was a lot of carving different shapes and trying to get the pattern right. So not doing 100% of the details like it does when it comes to feathers and furs, but to manage to make a pattern so then it mimics it enough that you can recognize it. It's something that like a lot of artists do, and you learn to do as you go to save A, time, but B, uh, readers aren't going to really see all the details. It's a way to learn stylizing things, and on top of that, doing too much details like you actually see in like real life could actually be more bothersome and can muddy up the work, which isn't ideal. So that's why it takes like an artist touch sometimes to really change a piece and to do certain things right. Not to dismiss like photographers and stuff, but sometimes it's just you need a bit of a human touch, and artist has to make decisions so then their human touch is still legible to the piece. In saying that, color scheme's interesting. I did originally like this green color scheme, and I thought like a dark, rich green would really make it look classy and sort of like elegant in a way. But it's a crow, and they can symbolize good luck, bad luck, and death. So I thought it was suiting to change the background later. And because I was also having the intent of making this a cross stitching piece, I did keep in mind that certain details would get lost because there's a certain canvas dimension that I'm working with as well. So that's why I do change the composition just a little bit, just a different type of crop on the bird. Other than that, though, it was really fun to work with a texture, background, and like a whole bunch of things. And it was sort of a good way to wrap up 2024, drawing wise, because I was feeling a lot in like the stuff in the dumps and a bit blocked, and like I had no idea what I wanted to create and I was a bit overwhelmed. So it was a nice way to sort of end the year on that higher note. It wasn't perfect, but it was one of like it's my favorite currently speaking, and yeah, I really enjoy it, and I enjoy the process of doing the cross stitching right now. There was some discrepancy in that, but I will talk about that in a later video, which hopefully you guys will join me for. I almost realized that this video was going to be like 30 minutes long, so I did cut it down a bit more too. I think that on this channel, people don't typically like the longer videos, probably because I don't have a lot to say for 30 minutes. But also just, I don't know, I feel like this content sort of fits better in 15 minutes, and I feel like that is enough of me talking for that long of a time. And yeah, so I still aim for like 15 minutes mark. I think this is about 16 minutes though, but we'll see. Anything else though? Yeah, so I feel like world building and talking about knit stuff is going to be a different video once I figure out how to format it and all. There's a lot more that's happened in her story. So I've used Notion, not sponsored by the way. It's just something that I've stumbled across and I find it useful and it does the job for me. So I've been using Notion, and there's a whole bunch of alternatives. Some are better for story writers and stuff. So many things, but I've been using it because you can shift around things and it's really helpful when you're writing plots specifically. So in saying that it's helpful to like shift the order of plots and chapters and whatnot. When I get down to that, of course. Right now it's currently world building, and it's a lot. Like, world building is hard, and then world building in a fantasy world, especially when there's magic, it's a lot. And I've learned so many things. There's like hard magic systems and soft magic systems, and it's a scale. And essentially what it is that hard magic systems, there are rules, and it's very like specific, so readers can sort of figure out what the limitations are. While soft magic systems, there seems to be no rules, and it seems to be very creative and flexible, and rhyme and reason sort of loose between why someone could cast a spell and why they couldn't. This one's a bit tricky though. It's very elemental based, so think Avatar: The Last Airbender, but with a lot of twists to it, because we also bring in, so basically there is fire, water, nature, because it's more plant based than like stones and rocks and earth based, and wind is also present. Their mana is linked to blood supplies, like their bloodline, and they're very rare to have like a mage, like someone actually able to do any magic. Those are very rare in this world, and it's all like one bloodline for every element type thing, but because it's so rare to actually have someone able to do it, and there was like a witch hunt at some point type thing, not all of them are female, it's just easier to say. Because of all of that, there's like a very limited amount, and there's also other elements, the other one being darkness, because it's just a really interesting, like, men, not gender-wise, but like humans bring in this dark component, and it's linked to like negativity and just terrible things to the psyche type stuff. And then it's like, why isn't there light then? But then I feel like light would be like the sun and like nature, and you can't really take things away from nature type stuff. It's really complex in that way, but there's like those 5 set elements, and there was thought of like sub elements like lightning and stuff, but I'm taking that away just because I feel like they don't really fit the way the world works. Basically it's like you can't control beams of light, but she could control shadows and whatnot, and like there's a lot of things have changed, and it's just like really hard to sort of make the reasons why things happen The other thing is because it's like how they're bound to, which is why there's no like light element, because how would you really warp that? Well, people can manifest thoughts in the dark, and sometimes that really makes monsters in the dark seem very real, and with their shadow like mages, they can make those into reality type thing because it's like based off on a lot of human psyche type situation. And give me a second, please. When the chime goes, the dog wants out. But yeah, so it's just like a lot of things to think about, and like fire, wind, nature, and stuff. It's really hard to depict also limitations and sort of work those out as well. So fire's been fine, and I imagine like a lot of them they can form sort of like pseudo weapons that they could like launch arrows or make like wind arrows, fire arrows, and all those based on their mana and based on like what levels they are. But because of that, it's just really difficult. Like, why is it that you could have dark mages but you can't have someone who's in the light? But then I feel like that's like encroaching on sort of nature and fire in a way. It's just that part's really hard. But the thing is that the dark mages are very rare, and it's like absolutely mind-boggling that there would be two of the same generation within like 100 years type thing. So it's just really difficult to make magic systems. And the crazy thing is also like, so healing magic belongs to nature, and that's because they can actually like form, they can make life basically like plant life, yes, and it's not really any animals, but they can heal them because they can manifest and make life out of their elements. And since the darkness also has an element of manifestation and making things tangible, they are also able to heal in a very specific way though. And like that's like a newfound magic for dark mages type thing. Give me a second, it's cold now because I let him out. But yeah, so that's something that Nith discovers after she talks to other mage, like the nature mages of different kingdoms, but they're like any type of magic users very rare. So like kingdoms sort of have their riches expressed by how many they have, and like even like the best kingdoms or the largest kingdoms might have 3 or 5 max, while like a less threatening kingdom would have 3, and like so on and so forth. And most kingdoms don't really have them at all, so they try to ally with those that do. um that's It's all sort of like still coming together though. I have like limitations already set as well. So for the most part, it's impossible to heal burning. Can't do anything with that just because of how it burns. And usually when you burn something, it's all the life essence like it's out of them. So there's that limitation. Shadow mages, like dark mages, especially Nith, prefers to be on the ground. And although they could manifest like tangible things like tendrils of darkness type things, there are limits to it. And one of the limits to all magic's the cost of it. So their mana can only, they only have so much mana supply at like once type things. So every time they use a certain magic, it depletes it a certain amount or like different amounts, and they could work on expanding it, but there are limits to that. And that's probably why they wouldn't like obsessively use magic strong. And then it's working on like what's considered a strong mage, what's considered like a weaker one. If there's like just a droplet of mana, does that affect a person, or does it have to have a certain amount in order to do anything? Those types of stuff, and it's just like a really interesting thing. Nith is like the OP one. There are moments of weaknesses, of course. Poisons affect them because it will like block mana and whatnot. And like, there's just so many things that's happening, and that's just like world building for the magic part, and not even looking at like why magic, how did this happen, how does it exist, type thing. So it's just so much, but I'm enjoying it as I go on, and I really don't mind putting in the little effort because I feel like at like for once I'm getting closer to actually finishing or like starting a natural story, and I feel like that's enough for me. I'm just relieved about that. But yeah, so Monty, I tried to make this into a graphic design thing too, somewhere else, and in there it's Osiris, but I'm probably gonna go with Morti as the name of the crow, the name of the game, Monty. No, but it's just interesting. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the speed painting. You could hear my voice sort of going now and then just because I did like a gameplay recording or a few of them. I've tried to. We'll see what happens and where I post it. I don't know yet. And like just a lot of talking has been happening, especially today because I'm editing videos and I'm recording voiceovers and whatnot. So it's a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed the piece though, and I hope you guys are having a good January. I'll see you in the next video. So stay safe, stay hydrated, and sit tight. Bye.